I'm Jill Scarborough-McLaury. I'm the CEO of Bright Futures Learning Services. Bright Futures provides applied behavior analysis, or ABA, therapy services to children with autism and their families. So we provide early intensive intervention, so starting with children as young as 2, and work one-on-one with them to really change their trajectory, to help them learn how to learn so that they can achieve their best outcome. Bright Futures started in my grandmother's kitchen, and I was only wanting to serve children with autism, so I really had no idea how to run a business. And when it was time to build a new building, thankfully my lender introduced us to the SBA's 504 program that enabled us to build a new building custom to meet our children's needs.
We knew when Jill approached us looking for a loan solution, we knew we had to find a very personalized solution, and we were able to do that with the SBA loan program.
When COVID hit, it was devastating. It was devastating for our families who are relying on intensive services for their kids to really help their children. And it was scary for us because we're a family here. And so to figure out how to keep everyone paid through this storm was really, really scary. But thanks to my contacts with the SBA, who were sending us information immediately about the payroll protection program and the EIDL loan program, I was able to have the resources available to us that kept every single person paid this entire time.
We at the West Virginia Small Business Development Center have been able to help Jill and Bright Futures in a number of ways. First of all, with getting her loan packaging together, helping with her PPP during this pandemic situation we've had the past year and a half. Just ongoing coaching and services and connecting with her in any way we can.
The folks at the SBA have truly taken a special interest in us. They understand the importance of the work that we're doing and how serving children with autism has a greater impact on our entire economy. And so several of our SBA contacts will personally contact me and make sure that I have information available to us, and that we were one of the first in line for the payroll protection program because our banker knew how important it was to be able to keep us afloat. I attribute the SBA's success with working with us to the fact that they're personally invested in us. And so I was unaware of the business coaching that I could receive to help me learn how to run a business, to help me learn the language of business and how to really look at the numbers and do finances. They help me with all of that. They help me understand how to get capital and how to navigate and connect with the business community. I truly wish I knew about the SBA's resources sooner.
My name is Efrem Fasaha. I'm the CEO and founder of Bunbuna Coffee, an exclusively African roastery. Bunbuna Coffee is a roastery that focuses on just African coffees. Africa, Ethiopia specifically, is the origin of coffee, and I felt that story needed to be told, and all the incredible coffees that come out of Africa. Here in this space, particularly in our cafes, we open it up. Of course, we have a cafe and a roastery in here, but we also open it up to pop-ups, different events. And so it's a community hub. I began this journey in 2011 after a trip to Asmara, Eritrea, where my family is from, and I became inspired. I got connected with SBA in 2011 when I was first formulating my ideas after my trip from Eritrea, and it was really as to guidance as to kind of how I would best go about, starting up this business.
3 years ago, Efrem came to our SCORE office seeking funds to be able to implement his planned coffee operation. We developed a business plan, which is the loan application, and procured the funds from a community development financial institution, Craft 3. The rest is history.
COVID impacted our business in a really negative way, honestly, and as from a health factor, but also from a small business. We had existed only for 1 year prior to COVID happening, so we were still in the prove your concept mode. And with COVID, I was forced to lay a lot of my team off, which as a first-time employer was the toughest decision and toughest experience of mine. And also the question of if I'd even be able to survive. The impact COVID had on us was huge. First, from just a health perspective, the risk, the concerns, and just not knowing what best to do. And then two, within a few days, seeing the impact of, the restrictions coming in and the impact that it had on our business. And so we had to quickly, start making tough decisions. We had to put a lot of our team on standby, unemployment, and we had to figure out how we were going to make it through the storm. Well, the SBA was successful in helping us because it was the only way we would be able to bring back our team. It was the only way we could weather the storm, both from our rent and any other overhead kind of expenses that we were being, pressed by as a result of the lack of the revenue that was being generated.
Ephraim is one of those inspirational entrepreneurs who every business coach is excited to work with. An honor to work with. Not only does he take your advice to make his business better, but he worked really hard to keep his employees safe, his community safe throughout the pandemic.
My hope for SBA and Boonboona that this relationship continues to grow. As they have supported us in the past, we want it to continue to grow in the future, and that's what we're looking forward to.
Hello. I'm Antoine Griffin, Chief of Staff at the U.S. Small Business Administration, and it is my pleasure to introduce Administrator Isabella Casillas Guzman, the 27th Administrator of the U.S. SBA. Administrator Guzman grew up in a small business family. She learned from a young age the important role that small businesses play in our communities and our economy. She went on to become an entrepreneur herself and has since devoted her career to supporting and advocating for small businesses, and ensuring that great ideas from anywhere and everywhere have the chance to change our world. During the early part of the pandemic, she served as director of the California Office of the Small Business Advocate, as well as Economic Recovery Support Function Coordinator for the state, leading the small business recovery effort in the world's 5th largest economy, with a focus on expanding assistance to entrepreneurs in underserved communities. In the 6 months she's been with us at the SBA, she's launched 6 new programs and revamped 6 others to ensure our agency can continue to deliver billions in emergency relief and position our small businesses at the forefront of our reimagined economy. Administrator Guzman, the mic is yours.
As the 27th Administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration and the voice for America's 32 million small businesses and innovative startups, it is my pleasure to welcome America's entrepreneurs to the SBA's 2021 National Small Business Week Virtual Summit. Over the past 18 months, you have faced uncertainty, disruptions, and hardships on an unprecedented scale. Yet time and time again, you've overcome challenges and achieved hard-won successes, innovating and creating to find new ways to serve your customers, support your workers, and sustain your communities. Throughout the pandemic, the American entrepreneurial spirit has allowed us to meet this moment, and it continues to propel our nation forward. That's why this year, National Small Business Week is all about celebrating your resiliency and charting a path forward to a thriving and equitable economy that lifts up all small businesses and innovative startups in communities all across America, building from the bottom up and middle out to leave no one behind. Together, we're building our economy and this nation back better than ever, and small businesses are leading the way. I am so proud and so inspired by your resolve to hold on to and continue to reach your dreams. And I want to take a moment to share a few of your stories. Tan Tan Cafe and Delicatessen, a family-owned restaurant in Beaverton, Oregon, has been serving authentic Vietnamese cuisine for more than 20 years. When the pandemic hit, Tan Tan Cafe was forced to close its doors. In that moment of uncertainty, Vin and Mai made a choice, and like so many of you, they refused to give up. After securing emergency relief through the SBA's PPP program, they pivoted to their popular sauce line for home cooks, invested in building it out, which helped them to bring in new customers and expand online. Not only have they kept their business afloat, they've significantly increased sales and built an even brighter and more resilient future. Bright Futures, an education services company that provides revolutionary therapy and social learning services for autistic individuals, was born in a school for one in a West Virginia kitchen. A mother and a grandmother and a teacher who shared a common commitment to an extraordinary young man created a nonprofit, fought for autism insurance reform, and won. In 2012, with the help of SBA services and loans, they opened their own clinic. When the pandemic hit, they were forced to suspend their pilot program, but thanks to PPP support and an EIDL, economic injury disaster loan, they successfully weathered the pandemic and even expanded to a second location where they are able to help more autistic children reach their greatest potential. These are just a couple examples of small businesses that adapted and continue to be brave risk takers to survive, tapping into their innate creativity, ingenuity, and grit. There are also countless stories of those entrepreneurs who've gone above and beyond to offer a helping hand to others, even when they themselves were still struggling. Entrepreneurs who shifted focus to their neighbors, like Annapolis, Maryland-based restaurateur Monica Alvarado, who, after receiving SBA emergency relief to maintain her employees at the Bread and Butter Kitchen, recruited restaurants across Anne Arundel County to feed the hungry by keeping all of their kitchens open and their workers earning paychecks. This is a powerful example of the leadership that small business owners have shown throughout this pandemic in communities all across America. Or Claire King with Propel LLC, which is in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, a company that has received funding through the SBA's Small Business Innovation Research Program, also known as the America Seed Fund, to develop new textile innovations. When COVID hit, Propel pivoted from producing one-size-fits-all protective gear for emergency responders charged with stopping steam line links on board Navy submarines to generating 3D cloth masks at a rate of 2,500 masks per day. Claire and her team chose to step up when we needed them most and do their part to help countless healthcare workers lead the charge against COVID. Claire and the Propel team saved lives, and we thank them for their service. These stories from the pandemic amplify what we've always known, that small businesses are the pillars of our communities. Civic leaders, employers, neighbors, mentors, friends, America's entrepreneurs sustain our neighborhoods. You anchor our main streets, in fact, and you develop groundbreaking solutions to enduring problems on a local, national, and global scale. And now you're the vanguard for America's economic recovery. And today I'm here to tell you that you're not alone. The SBA is proud to continue to stand with you through thick and thin. We're here to make sure you have the tools, resources, and support you need to reopen, recover, and rebuild. From access to capital and disaster assistance to federal contracting, mentoring, exporting, and so much more in our growing portfolio of services. We're here to make sure that you and all of America's 32 million small businesses feel like the giants you are in our economy. You are the driving force for our growing recovery. As a group, small businesses create 2/3 of all net new jobs and deliver 40% of our nation's total economic productivity. Those aren't just numbers to me. I grew up in a small business family and I've been an entrepreneur myself. I know what it takes to start and grow a small business. Entrepreneurship is my passion because I know how it can change lives and sustain communities. I've seen it time and again. As the administrator of the SBA, especially during a time of historic challenge and opportunity, it's my job and my top priority to ensure that anyone can achieve the American dream of business ownership, no matter who you are or where you grew up. And I'm proud to say in my first 6 months on the job, we've scaled and improved to meet this moment. Since the pandemic began, the resources we manage at the SBA have grown dramatically from $40 billion to more than $1 trillion to serve millions of entrepreneurs. And our dedicated SBA team has worked countless long days and nights dispersing loans, grants, debt relief, and other resources to help our nation's small businesses survive. And as the Delta variant continues to create uncertainties and challenges, we're continuing to deliver billions in emergency relief. But we're also going further for you. After all, President Biden's agenda isn't just to build back, it's to build back better. We want to meet this moment with you and transform our programs to make them faster, simpler, easier to use, because that's what works for small business. Our programs will be designed or retooled to be customer-centric, technology-forward, and equitable. In the past 6 months, we've launched 6 new programs nationally and revamped 6 more. This is all part of our efforts to be as entrepreneurial as the entrepreneurs we serve and put you, our customers, first. Through new technological innovations, such as our new mobile interface for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, or the streamlined PPP direct loan forgiveness platform for our smallest businesses, or the point of sale vendor program we launched with our Restaurant Revitalization Fund. We're working to understand your needs and meet you where you are. And we want to be sure that when you have a challenge or an issue, you can get help quickly. We've created dedicated new customer service lines, our new customer portals aimed to get you in and out in 10 minutes. We're also streamlining and automating to decrease the time it takes to process your applications. At the same time, we're implementing rigorous checks and protections against fraud and abuse to ensure funds get into the hands of the small businesses that these programs were intended to serve. As we work to build more robust systems and offerings at the SBA, we will be looking to use more technology, just as many of you have during this pandemic. We're also committed to making sure our programs are equitable so that we can reach all of our small businesses. Whether you're among the smallest of the small in rural and low-income communities, a woman or a person of color running a startup or other businesses, chances are good that you have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. We're using every tool to make sure your business isn't held back from capital and opportunity. And at the same time, we're pivoting to the future to ensure that you, our small businesses, are positioned at the forefront of our reimagined economy. President Biden's Build Back Better agenda, which is working its way through Congress as part of the reconciliation bill, is a roadmap of exciting opportunities for small business owners, opening doors across the economy through new programs to spur innovation, create new support networks, and provide capital. And it includes opportunities for small businesses to do business with the federal government and invests in our supply chains, which will create opportunities for you. And the once-in-a-generation investments advancing through Congress as part of the president's bipartisan infrastructure deal will be a game changer for our small businesses, with $1.2 trillion in infrastructure that will benefit all of us. Today, as I speak to you now, our world is filled with unknowns. The COVID pandemic has taught us to take nothing for granted. But it's also taught us that with optimism and determination, we can seed our own success and lift ourselves, each other, and this nation in the process. We know that you, as America's small businesses, understand this better than most and are up to the task. You will help the nation come out of this crisis stronger, better than before. And I couldn't be more proud to be your advocate, your voice, and your partner. Thank you for joining SBA's National Small Business Week. Keep your spirits up and continue to follow your dreams, and know that we're here alongside you.
Greetings to all at the Small Business Week Annual Virtual Summit, and especially to Administrator Guzman. Thank you for welcoming me here today. I first want to acknowledge the hard work of Administrator Guzman and all the employees at the Small Business Administration. Thank you for the tireless work to uplift and support small businesses. This conference's theme, Resiliency of Small Businesses, is especially relevant today and to the events of the last year. Through the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen small businesses be resilient in their fight to survive the pandemic, finding new and creative ways to do their business. And with the recent Hurricane Ida, businesses throughout the South are showing their resiliency as they help the community and find ways to move forward. Small businesses are fundamental key to the community and our culture. As a former congressman from Louisiana, I personally witnessed the resiliency of small businesses through Hurricane Katrina and in the aftermath of that recovery. I watched businesses rebuild from what was once nothing, and I know they can do it again. The Biden administration has invested a lot into helping bring small businesses and communities back from the pandemic with historic relief efforts, but there is still so much more to be done. My team, the White House Office of Public Engagement, is committed to supporting businesses and the private sector. Since the start of the Biden administration, we have had over 200 meetings with the private sector, totaling over 100,000 people. We have done this because we believe in the strength of small businesses and in ensuring companies invest into their communities. Small businesses are the backbones of our communities and are essential for economic purposes. But since the beginning of the pandemic, over 400,000 small businesses have closed and millions more have suffered losses. Businesses that I've seen my entire life on the streets of New Orleans, especially those that are owned and operated by minorities, are closing. This is hurting Black, Latino, and Asian American communities the hardest. Small businesses, not large corporate ones, make up 90% of the businesses in America. President Biden and the administration have made a consistent effort to help the small businesses that are suffering. Although it ended in May through the Paycheck Protection Program, a bipartisan effort which the Biden administration improved on and extended, our administration has helped thousands of businesses. And by passing the American Rescue Plan, the administration was able to address the immediate crisis facing our nation's small businesses. The American Rescue Plan dedicated $50 billion to support the hardest hit small businesses after the expiration of the Paycheck Protection Program. To ensure small businesses are able to gain access to these important federal programs, that the American Rescue Plan is also investing $175 million to bring community organizations in to serve as navigators and to establish a hotline to help small business owners through the process of the applications. The American Rescue Plan is a rescue plan for America's small businesses and America's mainstream businesses. When we passed the American Rescue Plan, we committed to getting our American economy back, which means bringing our small businesses back. As much as small businesses count on the Biden administration for assistance and help, we count on you to help spread the message about President Biden's plans to protect and strengthen small businesses. And we also count on small businesses to help protect the community through the remainder of the COVID-19 pandemic. America's businesses, large and small, universities and medical schools, and many other institutions are stepping up on vaccination requirements. We asked all small businesses to do the same, protect yourself and the community, and help us move out of this pandemic by enforcing masking and vaccination requirements at your businesses. The relationship between small businesses and the Biden administration is an important one. We count on small businesses as much as small businesses count on us. I personally know the importance of protecting small businesses from hurricanes, pandemics, and financial instability, and I want to ensure that businesses like the mom and pop shop down the street in New Orleans that are a core part of our communities do not close. I, along with all of the Biden administration, look forward to our continuous work with small businesses. Thank you for having me speak with you all today, and have an enjoyable remainder of the Small Business Week Annual Virtual Summit. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone, to National Small Business Week. I'm Mark Madrid, Associate Administrator for the Office of Entrepreneurial Development. I say it all the time, it's the highest honor imaginable to serve with a dedicated team at the U.S. Small Business Administration. And we're energized to serve under the bold and results-driven leadership of Administrator Guzman. And now I am energized as well to introduce the entrepreneur, Mark Cuban, that needs no introduction. Not only does Mark have a brilliant mind, but he has a big heart. I know this firsthand because Mark answered the call on short notice back in March 2020. And what he did is he showed up live for hundreds of entrepreneurs. This was on the brink of the pandemic. Entrepreneurs needed to be encouraged. We didn't know the day of tomorrow. There was doubt, there was fear. And that day, Mark gave these small business owners hope. And that's what he's going to do today. It is my honor to introduce Mark Cuban.
Thank you for having me as your keynote. My name is Mark Cuban. You may have seen me on Shark Tank, and I'd like to thank Administrator Guzman and all the amazing people who helped put this together. You know, running a small business is never easy, but we choose this life. You know, they say that we're in unique times right now with COVID and trying to figure out what's next. But I have to tell you, there are two amazingly unique moments in every small business owner's life. The day you decide to start your business and every single day when you wake up. Because running a small business has ongoing challenges that you face every day. It's always something, isn't it? You know, it could be an employee, it could be supply chain, it can be any number of things. But if you're anything like I was, I would dream about work. I would wake up in the middle of the night and answer emails or take notes, you know, solve problems while I was asleep. It's the craziest feeling in the world, but each and every one of you already knows that. You know, but the two most challenging moments, as I said, are when you start that business and every morning when you wake up. Now, what are the things that every small business needs to think about each and every morning? What are the qualities that give you an opportunity to have an advantage? Well, today is a little bit different, but there are some commonalities. Number one, agility. You know, 2 years ago, we never saw COVID coming. And those of us who have been able to be agile and change as we go to continue learning and addressing new issues, but that agility is what allows you to really be good. And so number one is agility. The second thing that's important is communications. When you're in difficult times, when there's uncertainty, which happens so often to small businesses, it's really important to communicate with your employees, with your providers, your vendors, with your customers, of course, with your prospects, because more often than not, particularly now, they're also facing uncertainties. They don't know how COVID is going to affect their business. They don't know how it's going to affect their family. They don't know, how to deal with all the unique challenges that COVID brings. And when you communicate honestly and authentically, then they respect you and they'll want to do business with you. Because now, as we all are working from home or rarely going into the office or concerned when we go into the office, those fears really impact how we work. And the business owners that are able to communicate, that are authentic, that are honest, and that are doing it on an ongoing basis are going to have a unique advantage. Because wouldn't you rather do business with somebody like that? Wouldn't you rather do business with somebody who sent you an email or picked up the phone and called you and said, look, I'm having these supply chain issues. My product can't get out of the dock or the port's closed. And so here's what we're addressing. I had a company just last week, they got hacked. Somebody in their company, and it's maybe 30 people in the company, got suckered into being phished, right? They clicked on a bad link and there were $500,000 taken out of their Shopify account and it got locked in. And the first thing I had to tell them was, you got to communicate with all your stakeholders, vendors, everybody that's affected. And they did. And then obviously we went and we addressed it with Shopify. And I think we're going to have a good resolution because people respected the fact that when bad things happen or challenges happen, if you're open and honest with them, they'll work with you. I had the same thing happen in my very first company, Micro Solutions. I literally had a receptionist take our accounts payable checks, and this is going back a little bit, white out the payee, wrote in her name, and I got a call from the bank saying, this old-time Texas guy, saying, son, this young lady showed up at the drive-thru with checks where she whited out the payee and wrote in her name. And I'm like, please tell me you didn't cash them. And he said, his words exactly, of course we did. We're a bank, son. 82 out of $84,000 gone in a nanosecond. And what did I do? Just what I just told you to do, what I told this company the other day with Shopify. You have to be honest, you had to communicate, and you have to go back to work. You can't get mad. You're always going to have challenges. And that's where agility really comes in. The next thing you always have to focus on is sales. There's never been a company in the history of companies that's ever succeeded without sales. Now, I have to be honest. As a CEO, as an entrepreneur, there are times when it's not comfortable to sell as much as you know that you have to sell. There are going to be times when you have to pick up the phone to somebody you don't want to call, or you're going to have to cold call, or you're going to have to send cold emails, or you're going to have to do marketing, or there's going to be, a problem with an employee and you're going to have to take over that sales. And you're going to get that feeling in your stomach where it's just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I have to do this. But you have to, because that's the difference between being an okay entrepreneur, a great entrepreneur, or a former entrepreneur. That moment that we all face when you have to make that call, when you have to call that customer, when you have to call that prospect and go through it, because if you don't make that call, your business is not going to succeed. And let me just tell you what I would tell myself in the middle of all those cold calls and cold emails. Every no got me closer to a yes. Didn't matter how many times they said no. I just needed to get to the right number of times they said yes. And that allowed me to grow my sales. And you know what? Every single person that I called respected me. And every single employee got to watch me sell. And they realized that if the entrepreneur, if the CEO, if the founder of the company is so excited about their product that they are willing to call everybody and anybody to sell them, well, that sets a great example for them. Because I got to tell you, as the entrepreneur, as the CEO, if you're not the most excited to sell your product, who will be? And realize selling is not convincing. It's not about selling ice to Eskimos or any of the worn out cliches that you've heard. Selling is helping. If you truly love and believe in your product, when you make that call, if it's a business to business call, you know you're helping that customer or prospect. If it's a consumer product, you know that you're making their lives a little better, a little happier, a little easier, a little less stress. Why wouldn't you want to do that as much as you can? Why wouldn't you want to set an example? So you always have to remember, sales cures all. As we go forward, things are going to change, as they always do. One of my favorite sayings comes from my dad. He used to always tell me, you don't live in the world you were born into. For those of you over the age of 14, which I think maybe most of you are, hopefully not all, but most, there was times before iPhones, there were times before mobile computing, there were times before cloud computing, there were times before so many technologies. I'm old enough to remember my first color TV, and the point is, things are going to continue to change all the time. And so in terms of what comes in the future, I can tell you that I pay attention to artificial intelligence. I think it's going to have an impact on all sizes of businesses, and the companies that are able to harness it will do best. And that's very analogous to the conversations I had back in the mid-90s, telling people you have to really understand what's going on with technology and the internet. And that really harkens back to the days, my first company, where, I was a 20-something-year-old kid selling computers, and people would tell me, no, I don't need computers. I'll just use my old style bookkeeping. I've got this 10-key adding machine that, and these ledgers that I can just fill in. Change is inevitable. So whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's, all kinds of new apps that are coming along, whether it's cryptocurrencies, you don't have to be an expert in each, but you have to put in the time to learn how they might impact your business, because change is inevitable, and one way to get a competitive advantage is sometimes to integrate these new technologies. So pay attention to change, learn as much as you can, because learning is an absolute skill set for entrepreneurs. And so to close up, because otherwise I could talk for days about being an entrepreneur. Number one, be agile. Number two, be an authentic, honest communicator with all your stakeholders. Number three, love to sell your product or services. Just set an amazing example for everybody in your organization about how amazing what you sell is. Number four, change is good. Change is opportunity. Learn new things, because learning is your skill set. Be able to understand new technologies, new opportunities, no matter what they are, and apply them to your business. And number 5, man, just be successful. And what does success mean? Success means waking up every morning with a smile on your face, knowing that as an entrepreneur, as the owner of your own business, let me say that again, as the owner of your own business, you get to do something most people only dream of. You get to run a company, you get to hire people, you get to sell things that you created, that you came up with in your own way. How amazing is that? And that's why I'm so thankful to be an entrepreneur. And that's why I'm so thankful every day when I get to hire people, create things, change the game. And so do you. So thank you again to Administrator Guzman. Thank you to all of you. And go out there and be great entrepreneurs.